is that fashion changes extremely rapidly, and it demands a much more complex shoe design being produced very, very quickly. But the method of making a modern shoe really hasn't changed much from the old traditional way.
First, all the separate pieces of leather are cut out using specially shaped knives. Then they're stitched together to form the upper part of the shoe. Finally, the upper part is carefully stretched over the last and stuck onto the sole. Computers aren't yet used in the manufacturing process, but clerks are experimenting with their use in design. Eventually, this could replace the present method.
First of all, the designer has to rough out a sketch of what he expects the shoe to look like. Then they take a fairly standard sort of last and cover it with thin plastic very closely. And then the design of the shoe is transferred onto this plastic. But it's now possible to hold that three-dimensional representation of the last in a fairly powerful mini-computer and bring it up on a screen in full colour like this. And using a graphics tablet and a pen, it's quite possible to design a shoe directly into the computer itself. Well, first we can draw lines of any shape. You just position the cross wherever we like and then draw a line, and that's the top of the shoe. And we can see that a little bit better if I put some design down here on the front here. I think we'll have perhaps a nice little pattern here. Any shape will do. This is pure artistry. And we are designing in 3 dimensions, so I simply touch mirror and it will put the same line on the other side. And any true designer would, of course, sign his work, and I can do a signature of it. And just to be sure what's happening on the other side, that it really is working, I can quickly have a look by simply redraw it from the other side. So it really proves it's actually in 3 dimensions. It's absolute magic the way it does it. Well, that's the end of the styling phase. Now I can get into what's called the art phase, where we're using full colour. I can display on the screen here 256 colours out of a possible total of 16 million, so there's hardly any colour that I can't possibly select. Some of them are pretty wild. I've always wanted a blue shoe, so I think I'll start off with a nice deep blue. And all I have to do is to put the cross over it, press the pen on the graphics tablet, and still keeping the shading, it'll shade the whole shoe, except the areas that are circled in my little pattern. It's just magic. Now all I've got to do to colour the rest is to pick various colours, say a nice red like that, and put it over the area I want to colour, and it will fill in that area. And I keep on doing that. I pick another colour, perhaps a nice bright yellow. I have that one, and I think I need some green. And there. And there, and I think in there. And that's my shoe complete. It's a dandy. Beautiful. Once the design's been finalised, the patterns have to be made from which the leather is cut. And using the system, it's fairly straightforward. This plastic is put through a mangle and flattened out. But making one of these for every size of shoe would be very laborious. But of course, on the computer, the process is exactly the same. The computer itself flattens out the pattern, but it can produce without any effort one for every different size. Well, for some reason, they declined to put that shoe into production. The 3D image was created by the computer using a large database of information about what shoes look like from various viewpoints. But what can we do on a micro, Ian?
Well, Mac, on the micro, we can work in 3 dimensions as well. If we look at our model of the house here, what we're going to ask the computer to do is to draw for us this shed here in 3 dimensions. And the way it's going to tackle the problem, it's going to take an imaginary point in the middle of the shed and calculate the distances between the centre and each of these corner points, and then reproduce that on the graphics screen. Here we've got it working for us. And let me just point out to you, at the bottom we've got the time that it's taking to draw each picture, and as you can see, we're running at about a second a picture. Now that's a wireframe image, just like the model, and it's a bit confusing. What it would be nice to do would be to make it look more solid. And we can ask the computer to calculate for us which faces, which walls are in front and which are behind, and only draw the ones in front. That's called hidden line removal. As you can see, that takes about twice the amount of time to do that calculation. Let's go back to our wire frame and add a second object. We'll add a chimney. There comes the chimney. And again, we'll ask the computer to do hidden line removal for us. It takes much longer now to calculate. We'll see the time coming up. You can see it's drawing now the parts that are behind, and that's taking 9 seconds around there to do that calculation. Now, another approach is to do what we could call overpainting. And on that computer over there, we're doing that. What's happening is it's starting at the back left-hand corner of the image, and it's gradually moving forward. And as you can see, when it moves forward, it overpaints the picture behind, and we get this three-dimensional image being produced. We can do very much the same kind of thing on our house. And here comes the coloured house, and it's going to draw a new picture for us and rotate it round. Now, we can do with this image, we can do really something very much like we saw in Tron at the beginning of the programme. We can take a picture of each of these images, add them together, and we can make our own cartoon film.
Well, thank you, Ian. Not at all bad, really, but I don't think Walt Disney's got too much to worry about yet. Next week, in the last programme in this series, we'll be looking at ways of connecting the micro to other computers via the telephone system, and we'll be attempting to send you some free software during the programme, and it'll be worth about what you're going to pay for it, so have a cassette recorder handy. Till then, goodbye.